All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to start our presentation. So my name is Flo. I'm a corporate innovation manager for the US branch of TrueSpares region. I'll be your host today for our tech meeting dedicated to entertainment and new media. So this session will be recorded. So let me know if anyone would be against it. All right, so let me share the presentation. Great. So we're going to start with our agenda for today. So first, after a short introduction of what we do at TrueSpares region, I'll provide some key figures about the entertainment and new media industry really quickly, and then we'll move to the fireside chat with our experts today, Tatiana, Tacca, and John Zozzaro, to discuss the industry and tomorrow's big trends of innovation. And then we'll have a selection of two innovative companies presenting their solution and product. Great. So, all right. So I'm just going to jump into it with a short presentation of TrueSpares region and what we do. So for some of you who don't know us, TrueSpares region is a catalyst for business and innovation. So we partner with Fortune 500 corporations in order to support international companies willing to expand and set up business in the Paris region. Thanks to our presence and vibrant tech ecosystem located in San Francisco, New York, Beijing, Shanghai, and of course Paris, we are in touch with over 4,000 international companies every year. So this unique relationship that we have with large corporations on one hand and innovative, fast-growing companies on the other hand led us to create the Global Open Innovation Network about 5 years ago. So through this global program, we organize about 20 events a year to foster business and technology partnerships between large corporations and startups. So since the pandemic moved our events online, it just allowed us to connect and get in touch with more people, more companies. So it has been a pretty interesting experience. We cover an area of technologies and topics. So we have technologies such as AI, VR, robotics, and topics, of course, like fintech, energy, and you name it. So today we are going to talk about entertainment and new media, of course. So I'm gonna jump into it, and I just wanted to show you and share with you a brief overview of the media and entertainment industry. It is composed of films, music, publishing media, and video games. So you pretty much know all the top 10 of the industry. Of course, it's Netflix, it's Electronic Arts, Disney, and you name it. The key figures I wanted to share today, just wanted to stop on three main figures really quickly. The first one, by 2023, it stated that revenues for the global entertainment and media industry are expected to reach $2.6 trillion. Another interesting figures is that by 2023, it's expected that digital revenues will account for 60% of total revenue in the media and entertainment industry. And the last one is that in 2020, the average daily usage on digital devices is around 3 hours and 26 minutes in the US, and this is a pre-COVID statistic. So we can see from the main prediction here, we can see the big trends. First is the digitization of the industry, and the second one is the increase of screen time, drastically raised by the pandemic over the past year. So we can see the big trends for the industry. The VR has the most annual growth rate for the next 5 years. followed by the OTT video. OTT video is, in other words, the streaming platforms like Netflix or Prime Video, video games that we saw that booming during the pandemic, and AI. So this is a general overview of the industry. Now I wanted to finish the overview of the entertainment and new media industry with this non-exhaustive market map with you. We designed it based on different players we have identified in the media and entertainment industry. And it's missing a few actors, but it gives us a good understanding on what is happening in the industry these days. So I don't want to get into too much details. So if you're interested or if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be glad to share with you and how I built it. So without further ado, I'm going to invite our two experts today. So Tatiana and John, if you can join me on stage. Great, thank you, John. Yeah, John, are you here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Tatiana, if you can join us on stage. All right, so we're gonna wait for Tatiana. In the meantime, thank you for accepting my invitation and for being here with us today. I'm excited to have you to discuss the different topics. So maybe we can wait for Tatiana just a second, and then I'm gonna let you present yourself. Okay?
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Hi everyone, can you see me?
You bet.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank
Had
you.
some tech issues on my end, or attempting to join.
No problem, no problem. Thank you again. So like I said, maybe first of all, and to give some context to the audience, maybe you could both present yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, the organization you're representing, or like your current projects. Tatiana, you wanna go first?
Absolutely. So I'm an independent esports, gaming, anime, live streaming consultant. So I work with brands, organizations, agencies, entertainment IP, gaming properties on marketing initiatives and strategic partnerships as it relates to esports and gaming space as a whole. So I've been working in the gaming space for the last 10 years and, had primarily been on the agency side. So, I've worked with dozens of brands across a multitude of campaigns, strategies, activations relating to esports sponsorships with Activision Blizzard, Twitch, Riot Games, FaZe Clan, TSM, Cloud9, and several others.
Wow, exciting. John, you want to go next?
Sure. My name is John Zozzaro. I'm a recovering musician. I have over a decade, played music professionally, traveled all over the country, turned serial entrepreneur, multiple marketing agencies that took me to Central Texas, where I was in Austin for the last 5 years, now relocating back in Chicago recently, where I launched MediaTech Ventures with some other friends of mine. Long story short, MediaTech Ventures is a holding corporation that really helps demystify and move public, private, and corporate capital through media technology innovation. We do that in a multitude of different ways. So not too dissimilar to the Choose Paris region model. We have an incubator for early stage creative and media tech or tech-enabled founders to technology, community platform and infrastructure, built a search engine for the media industry, and are working with real estate kind of all over the world to kind of aggregate everything and make sure everybody has access to all these things so they could be a lot more successful in their endeavors. That's it in a nutshell. And we can certainly get more into it. There's a lot of layers to that onion.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, so we can start the discussion. I actually had a first general question for the both of you, because we've seen in the past that in the industry Like Marvel was a comic book company, ESPN was like a sports network, Mattel a toy company. So they were like very specialized in their core offering before. But we can see that today, each of those companies tend to create like a world around their ID, like a big story around their IDs, and creating toys, movies, or games. So my first question would be like, what is like an entertainment company in 2021? Maybe John, maybe you want to start?
That's a brilliant question. Happy to start. I think it's important to appreciate the evolution of media since its inception in order to really understand how we got here. And media in its initial inception was very distinct verticals that were kind of undefined as media at the time. And that's, news and journalism and television. And back in the day when you wanted to get in front of somebody, you knew there were 35 million people watching the television at home in the US. And you put a commercial on right before the Flintstones came on or the Jetsons. And what we ended up seeing is these media industries like marketing and advertising and publishing and radio, television and film and so on. The internet kind of consolidated all of that in a really big way. And it forced a few things to happen. Number one, it forced the old publishing, marketing, some of these kind of outdated practices to modernize and really adopt digital infrastructures and technologies and how to bring their company into the 21st century going into it. But then also it gave birth, right, to video games, to VR and AR and podcasting. So you see all these other new types of publishing and distribution that are really kind of materializing and continuing to grow exponentially year over year as we continue to adopt them and to leverage them. So an entertainment company moving forward really understands, if you look at how perhaps Disney or how, Warner Media, how a lot of these conglomerates are set up, you'll understand that it's multiple business units, not too dissimilar from Alphabet's, corporate structure, but definitely designed more for the media industry. And you can no longer just be a music company or just a gaming company or just a marketing agency. You need to understand that all these things are becoming more and more interconnected. So the more that you can be a tech, finance, and media company with kind of a community element around that, I think is the future of entertainment. So they can really manage and host a lot of their IP without losing too much of it to their competitors.
Yeah, definitely. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Tatiana, did you have another word on that?
Sure. I think John said it so eloquently. So I'll just add my perspective, especially coming from the gaming industry, is to emphasize this importance of individual fandoms and individual communities that are built around those fandoms and how diverse people's interest points are now. And, essentially what we were seeing is this opportunity to, to John's point, really diversify across multiple media, multiple touch points when it comes to popular IP. But in nerd culture in general, we weren't necessarily seeing that outside of your Marvels and massive IP. But the anime space in particular, the gaming space in particular, are really starting to recognize that. In particular, we're seeing some really great new initiatives like League of Legends developing an anime series with Netflix, as well as Dota developing an anime series with Netflix. These are things that are really quite obvious on paper, make so much sense, but it takes the gaming space longer to kind of address that. I think League of Legends in particular is doing a really phenomenal job at that kind of multi-touch point play. In the music space, for instance, what we were seeing in the music X gaming or X esports opportunity was, your basic music performances before live shows. But now we're seeing something like League of Legends. They're developing, virtual K-pop bands and metal rocker bands and Middle Eastern inspired bands, and all dedicated to music that are specifically around their game. The names are referenced from the game, and that type of deep core based activation, fandom based activation, works exceptionally well because that's this element of this credibility, this depth that this audience really loves. We see similar things as well when it comes to the apparel and merchandise space. We're seeing a lot of interesting things as it relates to cross IP, IPX plays. So it's been a particularly exciting thing that we're seeing grow pretty significantly in our space as well.
Yeah, definitely. No, you're right. And yeah, actually, it's a good transition because we're discussing like that the industry is crossing between like different universe, and that's very interesting for our next topic, which is the metaverse. This is something that we wanted to discuss today, because it's pretty much on everybody's mouth in the industry lately. Is really the metaverse. And for example, on October 1st, the Economist newspaper titled "The Metaverse is Coming." So it's really coming to us right now. So I'm not sure everyone here heard about it. So maybe we can describe it first, maybe define it. John, do you wanna touch a word on the metaverse?
Happy to. I think people need to appreciate that this idea of worlds colliding digitally has been going on for a very long time. Ever since EverQuest, when you could buy gold online or via eBay and transact. There's a lot of other worlds where there have been multi-million-dollar transactions inside of where people actually have thriving businesses. And as technology continues to evolve, as the internet and as connectivity continues to improve, what we're seeing is just more and more opportunities to bring these worlds together. And that's why you're seeing a lot of these performances in Fortnite that have been so successful. That's why, Roblox had an incredible IPO. You're starting to see that in order, again, kind of going back to the original point that I made previous, is you need to kind of control those things. You need to be a tech, finance, media company with community kind of driven. And these metaverses do exactly that. And they do it extraordinarily well. What we're going to see moving forward is continued leverage of blockchain infrastructures to really help NFTs, which is another hot ticket item right now, thrive. There's apps just like my buddy Harish Lakar's Super World, where you could buy up digital property, and as that continues to grow and people advertise, it becomes real and monetized. So we're starting to dip our toe into more virtual environments. What's really going to be interesting is, as AR and VR continue to grow substantially in parallel, what are those overlaps going to be, and how is the metaverse going to be affected in the real world via augmented reality, while also being strong right now in virtual reality?
Yeah, that's very true. We're getting closer and closer to Ready Player One, it seems like, right?
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so you mentioned Roblox, of course, who they announced their IPO, and their value to close to $8 billion, and that's when like the industry kind of like realized how big the metaverse was, and Roblox actually claimed like 30 million daily users from age 12 and less. So maybe Tatiana, how do you think like could the metaverse change really the industry right now?
Well, these open space-based games, these games where it gives you the full opportunity to enter, create, you have multiple servers for multiple communities to kind of get together, has already been, quite well established and successful in the industry. Roblox is a phenomenal example of one. Minecraft is another fantastic one, and Fortnite in many ways is that as well. It's this gathering of people coming together, not maybe in the same kind of mass quantity, but in particular, Fortnite creative mode is very similar to Roblox or Minecraft. You can create your own game modes. You can create your own kind of in Fortnite experiences. And, in particular, when I work with brands, a lot of the times when they're looking for virtual activation and they're trying to think about new ways to activate in let's say, a scalable way, but something that is completely ownable, oftentimes these in-game modes like Fortnite Creative, like Roblox, become really natural ways to do that. We even saw, Gucci do a similar collaboration with Roblox, I believe, a couple weeks ago. So, what I really love about these spaces is the depth of opportunity. These become virtual playgrounds. They become things that you envision you can create. And I think there's something really powerful in that. So, in terms of like what we're seeing today and how that supports, theories and goals towards metaverse, I think, what we've seen has already really helped kind of move in that direction. Like gaming is a space for socialization, for creative connection, for essentially bridging gaps and bridging like-minded folks who are not physically together. And what we saw the last 14 months during COVID is an exceptional example of how that's theory has really been proven true.
Yeah, definitely. So just one more question on that, Tatiana. So do you think that actually those virtual spaces are meant to be like present or like in the next years, or do you think it's going really to boom in the next like 10 to 20 years? Because if we look at the industry right now, it's mainly young people or like teenagers or people in their 20s right now, right? On those, I would say, digital space or virtual environment. How can like an audience can be like broader? How can you touch a broader audience on those platforms? Do you have an opinion on that?
I think broadness of a platform is basically based on adoption and easy to use mechanics. I think there's a definitely misconception when it comes to certain titles like Minecraft and Fortnite, for instance. These games do skew very young. When I compare them to other kind of mass popularity titles like Call of Duty or League of Legends, they obviously do skew a lot younger. It does not mean that we're not seeing older Gen Z, millennials also using those games as well. When you watch a Fortnite, competition on Twitch, let's say, that audience might skew older. But if you look at, Fortnite playing overall, that might skew a little bit younger because it's, you're talking about a much wider audience. So I'd say like a lot of these games have already kind of reached pretty mass scale, pretty phenomenal numbers in terms of that adoption and usage. It's really like, does it bridge the gap in terms of like literally everyone and anyone can use it? Like we're obviously not there. There's a barrier to entry that, some folks have with gaming in particular. Not everyone is a gamer and not everyone finds it super easy to jump into a game like Fortnite and understands it and enjoy the mechanics and all of that. But the broader and the more value that game provides, let's say when it comes to your virtual experience, that'll certainly help with the adoption.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Actually, if I can add to that really quick,
yeah, definitely,
because I would say on the contrary, we don't need it to be broader, right? I think there's an important distinction from a generational gap that I think that Tatiana was touching on, but it's blatant and it's obvious, right? Like the age group that you mentioned grew up on this stuff, right? Like it's whereas maybe our parents' generation, they were all outside on bikes and digging holes in the backyard with sticks, and so it's important to appreciate that, but it's also different strokes for different folks, right? Whereas a lot of these younger generation are gravitating towards the Fortnites and the Robloxes of the world, but the older, more sophisticated users are, leveraging stuff like Wave VR, right? More entertainment-based virtual experiences, right? That isn't so much perhaps gamification or, gaming underneath kind of that banner. But they have their own, I would say, flavor of the VR in the metaverse, in which they are adopting slowly but surely. And we saw a massive uptick, right, during the past 14 months since COVID hit, of older generation getting into the video gaming space, because it's literally the only way to connect with other people for a long time.
Yeah, I have to emphasize that's a really important point, and one I'm definitely aligned with. It's actually why I struggle to almost answer that question about how to make these games more broad, because I personally don't really feel like they need to be. One of the I was talking earlier about the fandoms and communities built around them. I think it's unlike when we grew up and, everyone was listening to the same music, relatively the same things. We were all relatively watching the same things. Yeah. There's so much diversity now in the content and how to kind of express fandom, and using fandom almost as a form of self-expression. So I believe that we will continue to see fandom in these forms of individualized communities, individualized subcultures. And, personally, I think that's only kind of deepened our, the way that we enjoy and express ourselves.
Yeah, no, I agree. So my last question actually regarding the metaverse would be, like, how many metaverse or metaverses would you see, or at the end of the decade? Do you think there will be plenty metaverses, or there would be just one? I'm talking about this because I'm referring to the project of Alliance in Korea. They all the metaverse companies actually gathered together to create one single metaverse. I don't know if you heard about that, but what's your opinion on that? Do you think that metaverse will be like the modern internet and will be like just one metaverse? What do you think, John? Maybe.
Sure, happy to begin that. Technology always thrives on its capability to adapt to its surroundings, whether that's through interoperability, connectivity, APIs, integrations. So it makes sense for a lot of these communities to come together to figure out how they create something more substantial, because they would undoubtedly drive more value to each other in doing so. And so I think the folks in Korea got it right. I think you're gonna see a lot more of these worlds collide. You're always gonna have individualized experiences from the gaming community, right? Like your Fortnites and your Robloxes. I don't ever see a point in time where those worlds are gonna collide in any meaningful way from just like a metaverse standpoint. But some of those more generalized open spaces as it regards to just property, real estate, and just understanding the world as we know it. It just makes sense for that from an evolutionary standpoint, to materialize in that direction. And as again, technology, as connectivity, as people continue to find their a way to engage, we're going to find a lot more opportunities to drive these things in a meaningful way in the right direction, I hope, right? There's always the good, the bad, and the opportunity, right? So yeah, I don't think there's ever going to be one world to rule them all. I think there's always going to be a good, again, it is what you want it to be. And I think that's what makes the metaverse and virtual realms so spectacular, is how I would say tailored to my own personal tastes I can make it, based off of what's out there and having the options.
Makes sense. Yeah, definitely. Great. So yeah, just wanted to go to our next topic. Of course, we cannot discuss like an industry without talking about like the pandemic and how it really changed over the past year. You touched a little bit on that, on your presentation, but I just wanted to come back on the different changes that happened during the pandemic. Maybe for you, Tatiana, I know that like during the pandemic, we've seen like old physical events moved online. We've seen like graduation ceremony on Animal Crossings. politic meetings on Twitch, concerts on Fortnite. So what's your point of view on that? Like, do you think it's going to stay online when everything is going to open again? Do you think we're going to have a mix between those two, or like what's your point of view on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, to kind of set the stage, since the pandemic, what we saw was about an 89% increase in gaming conversation on Twitter. We saw each month, each quarter, each year was a record-breaking month for digital sales in gaming. And we saw live streaming viewership increase 89 or 87% on Twitch, on YouTube. So consistently, you're seeing a massive increase in watching, playing, and talking about gaming. And essentially what we saw was gaming as this space, as I kind of mentioned, a virtual playground for virtual activations. We saw, in fact, a 79% increase in sponsored branded live streams on Twitch and YouTube, as in influencers, essentially a brand taking over an influencer's live stream channel and doing custom content, a custom kind of takeover with that experience, which is something that if I'm working with a brand at the moment, even if the core ask is not around live streaming, it undoubtedly ends up becoming a part of a brand campaign because there's just so much value and so much scale in it. What we saw was, in addition to that, brands doing bespoke live streams, their own kind of their own tournaments, their own content. We saw, and so all of this really led to an acceleration of brand and mainstream's experience and relationship with gaming, live streaming, and esports. And that's a really, obviously someone in my position, a really exciting thing. It was, incredibly positive. And we saw some really innovative things come out of it. We saw Burberry do its first ever do its London fashion show as a Twitch live stream because they couldn't do it physically. You mentioned the graduation ceremonies. We saw Post Malone do a Pokemon collaboration where he did a virtual animated concert. Again, all primarily live streamed. We saw new ways for publishers to announce their titles and new initiatives like that with Twitch Games and Summer of Games Fest and a lot of bespoke content-based initiatives. So overall, we saw some really quite creative things in leveraging these platforms as this open space. But at the end of the day, in-person events this is not something that's necessarily replacing in-person events. It's just that virtual has really amplified it and has received, in particular, a significant amount of scale. But at the same time, when it comes to physical gaming experiences like a PAX or a TwitchCon or a League of Legends finals or, a major esports final, these types of things have some of the most incredible atmosphere you'll see. Literally, people are not watching, are not looking at they don't have their phones out. They're 100%, their attention is 100% on the screen. There's a real appreciation and value for that live experience. And, there's data that shows that while esports fans are very open to the virtual alternatives, it's ultimately not going to replace the in-person experience. So recommendations for the future will be to have some sort of hybrid thinking towards IRL and virtual when it comes to gaming, because there's obviously a ton of value there.
Yeah, no, you're right. Definitely. What about you, John? I know you founded like a venture capital. So on a high level point of view, how did you see the change during the pandemic, or what was happening for the companies you're working with?
So I think the reason why the media industry is so successful and continues to thrive, it has a lot to do with the nature of what makes up the beast, if you will. And I think most people still don't understand. David Reynolds, thank you for asking that question. This kind of goes into that a little bit. I was answering it in chat, but I'll cover it a little bit here now. If you look at how, from a federal standpoint in the U.S., from a NAICS code, the definition of media and creative is so outdated and obsolete. It's kind of gross. So there's a massive misunderstanding of how to aggregate and define all of these professionals in the media and creative industries from a federal level. Now, how does that obviously has implications, and it affects it on a private equity and private sector level. If you're to ask a Berkshire Hathaway or a Bain Capital or Deloitte or Accenture what media is, they're all going to have wildly different answers. And a lot of that is based off of geography and based off of their portfolios, right? Some people define it as entertainment. Some people define it as games. Some people define it as marketing, publishing, advertising, news, journalism, whatever it is. It's all media. And so it's important to appreciate that when we understand that, it broadens the horizons and the implications from a venture capital and from an investment standpoint. And media will always be a constant, no matter the economic, turmoil, if you will. And so what we saw happen is, obviously, the entertainment industry was completely decimated from a music and live performance standpoint, right? Venues, there's just a lot out there right now on how to save the venues. But what we did see was venues that did adopt technology and rather than yell at everybody to put their phones away, but instead set themselves up to live stream and to be successful and to be able to produce and have multiple uses of space. They were able to weather the storm, right? And now they're continuing to grow and thrive. So, but again, where we saw a dip in the entertainment space, live, especially in the music economy, we saw massive uptake, right? You saw Joe Rogan get $100 million from Spotify. You saw, podcasting go up exponentially. You saw Netflix go up exponentially. You saw video games go up exponentially. And I think it's an important testament to the thesis of investing in media, that it will always be a constant and go up and to the right, just depending on the economy, depending on what's happening in the world, depending on if there's a pandemic or not. It will affect parts of media while others continue to thrive and prosper.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Great. So just moving a little bit to our next topic, which is the next revolutions, I would say. Maybe Tatiana, what do you see coming in the next few years as big revolutions in the industry? For example, I mentioned in my presentation, on the big trends, that VR was still, the most annual, the most annual growth rate, has the most annual growth rate for the next 5 years. And we've been talking about VR, I would say, since 2012, since the Oculus, but we haven't seen quite the change yet. How do you see that?
I'm not sure I totally understand the question. You're asking about, how we're seeing VR today, or would you mind just?
Yeah, no, definitely. Sorry for that. We've been talking about VR since 2012. I'm asking where we are in the industry with VR. I would say is it working? Are people using it? How is that going for the VR right now?
Absolutely. I think it's still it has a lot of the same barriers that it had previously. It's an expensive technology. There are not a lot of games and experiences being adapted for it, and it's not necessarily as easy to use as a mobile phone, console, or PC. So, in particular, in my industry, where VR comes to play the most is in the experiences around the kind of viewing and fan experience. So in stadium, or replicating the stadium from home, But we're not necessarily, when it comes to that, seeing mass scale in that adoption. A lot of people talk, for instance, about esports VR and what a phenomenal opportunity this is. And the reality is, when it comes to something like an esport, and what makes an esport is at the root of it, having something easily accessible that everyone can participate in. Something like League of Legends is a free game that's available on all PCs. It's a very accessible game title. Call of Duty across all of console and now on mobile. So again, even with the price point, very accessible gaming title. VR is not that, and that makes it tricky when it comes to specific esports based initiatives. But there's obviously a lot of really exciting things around it. There's a lot, the technology is evolving really quickly, and I see it as a kind of alongside console kind of at home gaming experience. Similar to a gaming experience on a console.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And other than VR, in terms of innovation, what can you say about like esports or like gaming? What do you see as like innovation or the next big thing?
When it comes to esports and gaming, obviously I was kind of touching upon it earlier, the ability to customize in-game experiences and using this as a playground. I think the adoption of Twitch live streaming is particularly exciting, and in fact, I think we'll see a lot of growth in terms of the interactivity that's being leveraged for that live content. For instance, we're seeing Twitch develop predictions and voting systems that live as overlays alongside, over the screen. But we're also seeing elements that integrate into streams that engage with the chat. So there's a lot of really cool gamification type technology and tools that can be used for that are more kind of custom activation assets. Yeah, so those are some of like the more immediate things, and then I think when we go back to in person, I think there's a lot of opportunity to create more bespoke experiences that really lean in on the culture and the IP and bring that to life in more creative ways. I think we'll see a lot in terms of new safety innovations and making people feel comfortable in those in-person environments. And I think we'll see new growth in new segments of sponsorship, such as the travel industry getting more involved in gaming, which we were starting to see pre-pandemic, but then of course had a pause.
Yeah, definitely. John, pretty much same question. What's for you, like in terms of innovation in the industry? What can you say could be the next, I would say, revolution?
There's so many things to touch on there. It's such a loaded question, but I appreciate it. I think it's important to appreciate the role that media plays in the world right now, and how companies like Facebook and Twitter and a lot of these other social platforms need to understand the implications of their platforms and how they affect the world, both positively and negatively. I think there's as news and journalism struggles to keep up with clickbait media, how do we prevent people from sharing disinformation? How do we adopt blockchain and more transparent technologies to make sure that we know what's happening and it's fully transparent, and you're not seeing a lot of adoption there because it's not a lot of best interest for a lot of these platforms to adopt technologies like that. I think what we're going to see is hopefully a new paradigm, especially with new web 3.0 applications, and as things continue to be tokenized and as blockchain continues to be adopted as infrastructure, you're going to see a lot more transparency across media. You're going to see a lot more consolidation as well. If you look at SPACs, which is special purpose acquisition companies, where they traditionally average 5 to 10 a year, there was over 100 last year. And you're seeing a lot of massive media consolidation in these SPACs with billions of dollars in transactions just to be publicly traded, which is mitigating a lot of investment risk, but it's also skewing the books from an economic standpoint and implication. Whereas, the stocks are up, but the majority of the American economy is down. And so, and it's wild to think that media can do all of those things on such an aggressive way. And so I'm hoping as 5G, which is right around the corner, which is going to redefine media and how it's delivered and published again, as that's right around the corner, and as more and more people get on this thing called the internet and they figure out how to use all these tools, we figure out how to be more responsible as a society to enable individuals to be successful without the toxicity that tends to linger and tends to fester in all parts of the web and all parts of media, frankly.
Very good words. Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Very interesting. So thank you, John and Tatiana. I believe we have some questions. I believe we have one question in the chat from Chuck, saying, as a video content creator, a small production company, how can my business fit into these metaverses? Who wants to answer, Chuck?
You want to take a stab at that first, Tatiana?
Sure. I mean, from my perspective, where I don't want to say that I know the answer to this, because the metaverse is a very undefined thing at the moment. And I think, there are a lot of ways, something like video content creation can be super broad and fit in a multitude of ways when it comes to new technology like that. But immediately what comes to mind for me is packaging things that occur in the metaverse and producing them into specific content series or videos that essentially kind of showcase what that is, bringing essentially the metaverse to the real world and through various forms of content. That would be where my mind initially goes with something like this. I think influencers in particular continue to be a really powerful driver of scale and storytelling, and have been especially focused on leveraging them quite a bit as it relates to, I mentioned live streaming multiple times, but also when it comes to content series, when it comes to VOD, short form things as well. And so that would be, my initial thought there.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Great. So we have another question from David, who says, for those of us with a divergent continuity across corporate and entertainment ecosystems, how will new value, advantage, and sustainability in venture strategy be affected as priorities evolve and our stakeholders agile and align for these advisors' development pivots ahead? John, maybe.
Yeah, no, I fucking love this question. Look, at the end of the day, people need to understand what media is before they can understand how it works and before they can understand how to invest in it, which is why I said I touched a little bit on the answer before. But it's important to, I think it's just, if you look at the Disneys or the Universals, it's the conglomerates of the world that reign supreme. And most people don't know that most of the media that you consume is owned by 8 companies. And so it's conglomerates and diversifying your portfolio from a subsidiary and ownership standpoint is the future. It's much easier from a capital standpoint to be involved in things that make sense rather than the whole pie that maybe I'm not interested in the whole pie, but I want a slice of it. And you're starting to see it. And even in the music space, as musicians start to really define how they should set themselves up as corporations and where one subsidiary holds their their likeness. Their one subsidiary holds their masters, one subsidiary holds licensing opportunities, and people can, pick and choose their flavors, right? Where a BMG might come in and invest in the licensing portion of it because they do over $500 million in licensing a year, whereas Sony might be more interested in the likeness of them and invest in a portion of that. But everybody wins because everybody's promoting it and everybody has a slice of the pie, so to speak. So it's going to be affected from a priority standpoint, I think, based off of the reach, the value, the eyeballs, congruent usership, all the things that you would traditionally define technology and how you would evaluate it. Now, what I think it's important to appreciate is capital is not ready for it, and they haven't been for a long time, which is why there's still massive fragmentation when it comes to data and understanding and how these things need to be segmented and identified, and so until we really start at a base level of understanding with what media is and all of the things that fall underneath the realm of media, it's damn near impossible to really appreciate the implications from a venture capital standpoint and how it's affected it. But if you look at the top 5 media companies that trade at close to $1 trillion market cap, you could start to make sense of some pretty easy similarities in how they're all set up and how they function.
Okay, great. Great. I believe David is saying, I think we will be very surprised at what economic spheres will drive an evolved strategic context, new value and deal approach. That's his answer, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of it too, I mean, is really based off of adoption, right? I mean, like we're still, there's still a lot, again, if you know and you understand what media is, which is every form of how we perceive the world in front of us, right? That's what media is, right? Our perception of the world. So when you appreciate that and the gravity that holds in every industry, you can really start to identify. And right, for example, there was a company that went through one of our international incubators that we manage for Colombia. They created the first video game that was FDA approved to help fight ADHD, right? And there's just so many implications when it comes to media across all these different industries, and a lot that's going to continue to be uncovered as time continues to evolve the technologies that are available at our fingertips. But as they become more adopted and as people, again, different strokes for different folks, as we continue to really hammer down individualized curated experiences, which is another massive marketing and advertising industry in itself, leveraging big data and AI and making people products. It's what we are, right? At the end of the day. And it's only going to continue to perpetuate and grow from a value standpoint. They're identifying it as the trick, right? Because there's so many new ways of what we didn't have before that we measured from a KPI and metric standpoint that is now more technology enabled, that drives a lot of other factors when it comes to who we are as people that are going to continue to grow in this perception of perceived value. Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, thank you. Very interesting. Thank you again, John. Thank you, Tatiana, for your insight, and yeah, thank you again for in accepting my invitation today. And please stay with us for the second part. Absolutely, that was a blast. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Great. So we're going to move to our presentation of startup. So today we have Phil Butler and Ari Evans. So Phil Butler is the founder of Radiate, and Ari Evans is the founder and CEO of Maestro. So maybe we can start with Phil. Phil, if you can join me on stage.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, how you doing? All right. Thank you for accepting my invitation, and I'll let you present yourself and your company.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. So,
Thanks.
Hey, everybody. My name is Phil Butler. I'm the co-founder of a platform called Radiate. What we do is we bring people together through the real-life experiences they have or will have in common. So that might be attending the same music festival, dressing up for the same Comic-Con or traveling to Brazil for Carnival during the same time. It's all about bringing people together through shared experiences. My co-founder and I basically thought to ourselves, there are all these platforms for dating and romance, for sex and love, but where are the platforms for community and friendship, for finding like-minded people to experience life with? And so we made it. And so what I'm going to do today is kind of take you through our core product, what we've built our current success on up to this point. But what we have in the pipeline is kind of like so much more than this. So if you want to know about everything else we're doing, just reach out to me directly and I can kind of take you through our roadmap. So this is our product. So to date, what we really do is we work with large event producers. So people who throw large concerts like EDM shows or jam band shows to help connect their attendees before their festival, during their festival, and after the festival. And the way that it works is we have a platform that has a repository of all of these events, from 2,000 person events all the way up to 100,000 plus events. And when you join one of these, you have a forum that's dedicated to that event. And it's not a feed, it's a place where people go and they directly post to it. And there's a way for people to kind of communicate with each other, similar to a dating app. But the key thing to remember is that Radiate isn't just a dating app. There's been marriages, there's been babies, but there's been more friendships created. And that's kind of like what we're going for. And then we also created something new during kind of COVID that allowed our users to connect with each other easier digitally around kind of like these live streams, which I'll get into as we kind of go through the presentation. So the first thing is, the reason that we kind of connect people around these large shared experiences is we feel that shared experiences are one of the remaining few places in life after college where you can actually meet someone in a natural way. So when you're going to a festival or you're going to a concert or you're going to an event, these are like-minded people all excited for the same thing that you are, all on a similar schedule. But there's no place really for them to connect in one organized fashion. So if you go on Facebook, you have 10 different Facebook groups for Coachella. On Radiate, there's one place for everybody to go to for that event. And you can go there and you can find a ride. You can ask other community members questions about the event themselves, and kind of just like allow community members to help each other. The thing that kind of brings it together is our hey mechanic. And so whether you're in the forum or you're swiping on people within the platform, what you do is you send a hey. And we borrow something from dating apps called the double blind opt-in, which basically says if I hey you, you won't be able to know that unless you pay me back. So it's just a way to kind of make people feel comfortable of trying to connect with new people without like the fear of rejection. And the newest thing we built, so when COVID came around, we had about 100,000 monthly active users. We were making about like 30K in MRR, and everything was going awesome. And then when COVID hit, all of our event partners started to have to postpone their events. And they were doing these live streams and kind of trying to connect and stay relevant in a world that was increasingly going from physical to digital. And so what we did is we built a new way to kind of connect with folks digitally called Spaces. And this is actually something that we're going to be building out an entirely separate platform for while still utilizing the infrastructure within Radiate. But the easiest way to kind of explain the next version of Spaces is I'll show you a quick video of it. But then also, if you remember MySpace, it was kind of a place where you could go on. If you knew a little HTML, you could customize it, really make it your own world. And so we're doing something similar, but in a more 2D way. And so I'll show you a video. So as you can see right now, most of this is tailored towards like our festival partners being able to utilize the product and kind of bring their attendees together, whether it's around a lineup drop or a pre-party where they can meet each other. But everything we do at Radiate is we try to create these digital interactions that lead to a physical friendship, right? And so that's why currently all of the events on Spaces that we use are real life events that are coming back. And we just kind of allow them to start their friendships sooner rather than later. The other thing we do for our current partners is we give the power to communicate to their community back to them. So right now, if you're on Facebook, if you are on Instagram, Twitter, you need to kind of pay in order to reach your entire audience, even though you're the one who on the platform created that community. So you might be a music festival with 100,000 fans, but when you post something on Facebook, it doesn't reach those 100,000 fans. And so for us, we think that the partners who work with us, who utilize their communities in a way that is awesome and helps them grow, should be able to reach their community members without having to pay to do such a thing. And so that's something else that kind of makes Radiate stand out when it comes to being a tool that our partners can use, is they have full access to their community members, so they can go on, they can notify them, they get, we share data where it's legal and allowed. And so it's really their kind of like community. And we're trying to empower our partners to use Radiate as their preferred community because we give back to them. The other thing that we realized while we were kind of like creating this platform is around major events, there's always these micro communities. So if you go to Comic-Con, what you'll see is you'll have your Marvel fans, you'll have your DC fans. If you go to a music festival, you'll have your jam band fans, you'll have your electronic music fans. And what we did is we basically gave the fan base, these community members, the tools to find their own community members. So that means if you're going to Comic-Con, you can go on Radiate and you can create your own pre-party. Your own micro event, and other people in that community can see it. They can apply to join. If it's an open event, they can just join directly. And then from there, these community members can start creating new kind of groupings with each other. And people have loved this. I think my favorite one was there's a music festival in the States called EDC Las Vegas, where someone threw a house party that ended up like having about like 350 folks all from Radiate who found it. And it was a blast, super respectful, but it was a very fun party. So that was also cool just to see people come together from the platform. One of the final things we do is, we work with our artist partners who are playing these shows to kind of give them a way to access those attendees directly. So a lot of times you'll see that if you're like on the lower portion of the lineup, or even if you're a headliner, there's no real way for you to directly connect with those festival attendees that are going to come see you play. And so what we do with our artists is we either host meet and greets inside of our Spaces infrastructure. We give them a platform that they can actually communicate with their fans, like through our micro communities, where they can kind of chat with the people who are planning on seeing them, and also kind of like just reward them for being part of the platform by boosting their content when they have new music that comes out and helping them reach the fans that are actually their fans. I guess in my opinion, it's boring, but it's useful, is we help our festival partners with like their event marketing. So one of the things that people really enjoy about Radiate, and I think has been a key to our success, is that we always say that friendships lead to ticket sales. And what I mean by that is, if you're thinking about going to a festival and you meet someone that's going to that festival, more than likely you now have another indicator that this is a cool event, this is a fun place, I should be going. And so what we do is, and the reason we don't charge for ads, is we actually circulate content and profiles from people that are their true fans of our partners or of these events to people that, based on data, we think would also enjoy their events. So that means maybe someone like Jade likes the same music as I do, and based off the data we have, I'll show one of Jade's posts about this event called Abduction to me, because I think that Abduction is something that Philip would be interested in. And so we take all this data, we take all these profiles, and that's how we help our partners expand their ticket sales. That's how we help our partners with their corporate sponsorships, help them reach their audience members. We just collect these kind of like unique data sets that no other platform has, that helps us target the right way. And again, we do this for free. The main way that we make money, although it's not mentioned in here, is very similar to a dating app where folks pay for better tools to meet new people. So that means if I wanted to connect with Savannah or Jade, normally I would go to their profile, say hey, and they wouldn't know it unless they said hey back. The way that we make money is if I wanted to directly reach them, I would send something called a super hey, where I could send a message and say, hey, looking for a ticket to Abduction, do you have one? Or I could get our subscription, which allows me to have a status where I could say, looking for a ride down to Florida from New York, anybody leaving next weekend? And as people are going through the platform, they'll see that status, click on it, and be able to kind of connect with me directly. We also make money through corporate sponsorships. One of, I guess, kind of like one of our unique abilities is being able to reach folks that are going to these events directly. So a lot of times with corporate sponsorships, they'll pay for 3 days of a music festival, but only on site. And there's no activation before and there's no activation after. And so Radiate kind of helps close that loop where we can get folks excited about the brand before the festival, we can get excited, drive people to the actual activation when they're at the festival. And then afterwards, maybe hit them with a coupon or other type of engagement where they can actually then go take that brand experience and convert into some type of sale. And so that's basically the platform. It's all about bringing people together through their shared experiences and just kind of making the world a better place. We think that if the world had more friendships, there'd be a lot more peace and a lot more love and a lot more understanding. And so that's all we're really trying to do, is give people a place where they can come and find each other and connect with like-minded people and introduce people to audiences they might not have known they liked, but based on the data we have, we think they might. So that's what we're up to.
Great. Thank you so much. Great words. Great words.
Thanks.
Awesome application. So please, guys, before you're going to an event or a concert, please download Radiate. You're going to make some friends, maybe find the love of your life. So yeah, definitely. Awesome application. Thank you so much, Phil.
Thanks.
And have a great time. All right. We're going to go with Ari. Ari, if you can join me on stage for Maestro. Hey, Ari, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you. Thank you. Great. So, yeah, you're gonna share your screen or maybe the presentation?
Yes, absolutely. Give me one second.
Yes.
Okay, great. Can everyone see this?
Yes. Great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So hi, everyone. My name's Ari. Thank you so much for having me and for listening. I've been in the live streaming space for quite some time, and the kind of fireside chat that was happening at the beginning of this meeting, I just feel like both those people were just completely spot on with the kind of trends and directions that they're talking about, and sort of this idea that, what is media? Media is everything in some ways, right? We think a lot about that question and about kind of where things are headed. Our role specifically to play in that new future is as a tool creator, right? As an enabler. How do we enable creators and companies to create these new experiences that really take advantage of these new digital formats instead of kind of the TV formats of old? So I'm really excited to show you what I got today. We're going to do a very short set of slides and mostly spend time on products so you can just see it for yourself in action, and we'll talk about who's using it and whatnot, and I'll save some time for questions. So at Maestro, our mission is to grow the GDP of the creator economy. We do that by providing a white label interactive video platform that helps creators of all sizes to build strong communities and make more money with video. When we say creator, we really mean a pretty broad sense of that word. It could be, some of our customers are like Apple and Epic Games and Live Nation, right? So some of the biggest companies in the world, but we also work with, big stars like Billie Eilish, all the way down to some no-name act you've never heard of that is actually pulling in a lot of money from their own audience through subscriptions or pay-per-view or merchandise or other direct-to-consumer models. So we're really just seeing that the need to have a live interactive channel experience with your audience is pretty important these days. And our platform is a really good one to go out there and achieve that objective. You can think of our product kind of as if Squarespace and Twitch had a baby. And what do I mean by that? You have the white label elements of Squarespace or Wix, right? It's almost like a website builder. It's very easy, no coding requirement, no technical requirement whatsoever. And then you have the interactive video channel concept of Twitch. So we kind of mash those up together and provide our customers with their own platform. Really, the way that the media landscape evolved is that if you're a creator, you're kind of in some ways a slave to these big platforms, right? And they don't really share the audience data with you. Kind of Radiate just spoke about that concept, right? You want to be in control of your own audience and have that direct consumer strategy. And so what we pursue strategically is very similar to Shopify. Right? If you're a merchant and you have a store, well, you might have your products on Amazon, but you're not going to market Amazon. You're going to market your own store where you have 100% share of voice, right? Because you own the customer relationship. So that's the basic gist of what we're doing is, really providing this white label platform that helps you do it yourself on your own website, in your own app, start making money, start building that community, have full access to your viewership. That's the model of Maestro. So, I'll walk you through an example of the product. Since we were just talking about like esports and gaming, I feel like it's really timely to show an example in that space. So we do a ton of stuff in the esports world. We work with Fortnite, we work with Overwatch, we work with most of the major publishers in various different ways. And they come to us precisely for this reason that, Twitch is amazing, but, Twitch doesn't really provide a lot of the flexibility and the ownership that some of these publishers want, right? Like they want to know who the viewers are. They want to be able to sell them in-game merchandise or in-game items, skins, currency, whatever it might be, right? And they want to kind of have a destination that they point people to. What happens if Twitch doesn't renew the deal next time? Well, they got to go build their audience again on another platform. And we've already seen how difficult that can be. Games like Overwatch and Call of Duty, to some extent, when they switched from Twitch to YouTube, never really recovered on the viewership standpoint. Whereas if they had sort of funneled the audience from Twitch to their own site or their own platform, then they'd have a lot more leverage in the conversation. And that's really what it comes down to, right? If you control the viewership, you have all the leverage in all the conversations. So, a lot of modern brands are really pursuing that strategy when they realize not only do they get the ownership of the audience data, but they also have the benefit of, really just the control element, right? So they can do their own deals with brands. They can, extend the e-commerce integrations with their own backend systems. They can do whatever they want. So in this environment here, what you're looking at, this was on overwatchleague.com for their season. And the basic gist is you have a big video player in the middle. There's a lot of different ways to get video into the platform, whether you drop in a YouTube video or Twitch, or you stream directly through our streaming service. We're very, very flexible depending on the use case. On the right side of the page, you have a customizable panel area. So this is a card. It's like a call to action. Buy something, bet on something, vote on something, whatever it is you want the audience to do. It could also be an advertisement, and those can be dismissed. Now over here are our panels. And this is where a lot of the interactivity and extra feature set comes into play. What we've done is not really set a specific experience, the different strokes for different folks concept. We have experienced that firsthand every day of our lives. Every one of our customers is like a special snowflake in how they want to use live streaming. So instead of kind of defining what the experience should be for everybody, we've created a modular design. For example, chat is one of the features. Some customers don't even use chat, so they turn it off, right? Here's our quest system, which is a gamification feature. To Tatiana's point from earlier, this is a really untapped, unexplored area, and it's working quite well for us, right? So these are called quests. You set up tasks for people to complete. When they complete them, they unlock prizes or raffle tickets or in-game currency. It is mega popular in gaming, but it is extending to all these other verticals we work in. Music, comedians, even like political events, they're all starting to use some of these features because they really amplify the watch time, the engagement rate, the login rate, so you know who the viewers are. There's just so many benefits. During COVID, similar to Radiate, we kind of built a co-viewing experience called Watch Together. Fix this camera over here. So you can kind of be in a Zoom chat room with your friends while you're watching a live stream. We also added a way that celebrities can kind of surprise you and pop into your rooms randomly, which is a pretty fun feature. And in general, if I was the admin of this site, I use this admin panel on the left to kind of set everything up. And we've made it stupid easy to use to the point where you can get up and running to this point in about 5-10 minutes. So for example, in the panels, we just have a catalog of options to choose from. And so, for example, if I want to turn on a chat, or I want to add my shopping experience, or I want to, add a schedule or, leaderboard with points, whatever you want to do, there's an app for that, and you just install it into your channel with one click, right? So if I want to use multiple choice, I just call this thing polls. Now I've got my polls and predictions that I can just add to the channel with just a few clicks, right? So very easy to get going and add a lot of rich functionality yourself. Now, the cool thing about the panels and the catalog is that we don't build all of them. We actually are an open developer platform. So this is kind of like our version of Twitch extensions, except we really don't view these as extensions. We view them as really core to the product, right? So these different types of interactions are a big part of why you would even use Maestro in the first place, and frankly, the direction we think the industry is going. On the level of personalization as well, right? You can imagine having calls to action during the stream. Maybe they're generic or maybe they are personalized. So let's show an example. Overlays are more about driving an action at a key moment. So if I want to trigger an overlay during the stream, maybe there's a great moment where this player has made a great play. That's the time where I want to hit you with the offer to buy the jersey. When you click on it, it gives you the transaction flow right here, and you can check out without ever leaving the stream. So this is a very deep integration with Shopify, but we have many other integrations with other e-com platforms. And given the insane explosion of shoppable video these days, it's no surprise that this has become one of our top features as well. So overlays are a little bit different, and there's a lot you can do with them, whether you want to run a poll or a raffle or lower third, or even we allow developers to super customize these things even far beyond what you see here. I'll show you some examples of those in a minute. But the other powerful thing that's going on from a monetization standpoint and working really well during COVID is ticketing and subscriptions, right? So what we've done is really, again, double down on the direct consumer model. It's really about monetizing the core audience and getting them to pay. So we have built in a ticketing system. We've also built in subscriptions. You can mix and match them. We have some customers that are making $50,000 a month from this kind of setup. And just on Friday, we did our biggest event ever, which was a virtual concert for 21 Pilots, which grossed over $5 million GMV in one day. So this is like pretty remarkable what's going on. We've paid out over, I think it's $12 million to creators since we started this paywall system a little under a year ago. So it's been pretty remarkable to see how much money creators can make using this kind of system. Now, just to show the versatility of how many different areas this can apply to, I'll go over to sports, and I'll use the personalization example here because this is really important. And we really believe this is like completely untapped territory in terms of like, what is that level of personalization to you? We were granted a patent which lets us basically control how the personalization works with a, quote, triggering event. So let's say you're watching a football game, for example. We don't have actual NFL footage because they keep taking it down. But let's just say we have a touchdown being scored, right? So if we know nothing about you and a touchdown is scored, maybe we'll hit you with the generic touchdown overlay. This one is a little superior because it has a call to action to share maybe a clip or a tweet back to that event, to that match, right? That's pretty sweet. And you can drive that completely programmatically from like a stats feed. So there doesn't need to be a human. Literally what happens today is they're at a computer pressing a button on a machine to trigger these moments. But now let's add that personalization layer. For example, if we know your fantasy picks and we know this was one of your picks, then that cohort on that same triggering moment would get a different overlay, which says you just got 6 points in your league. Click here to view the standings, and we pop open your fantasy standings. Or let's say you're in a country or state where betting is legal. So we have a geolocation element that goes into the decision tree. And then if you do qualify, then you would get the overlay for the odds for the score at halftime. And when you click on that, you'd get the integration with DraftKings or Betway or whatever the betting partner is in order to facilitate that bet taking place right within the platform directly. So you can see how this simple system really has a lot of versatility in so many different areas. And there's so many different ways that people want to use interactive streaming, but with this modular design, they can get there, right? And we've taken the stance of really not trying to build everything for everyone because that's impossible. So that's why we've taken the approach of the developer ecosystem that allows other developers to bring the functionality to the platform. And then, of course, on the back end, it's, again, direct access to the viewership. We allow you to export your users, search them, filter them, do all of your back office stuff like canceling a subscription, refunding a ticket, all that stuff you might want to do. And then a full analytics backend as well, which is going to provide with very detailed information on how effective you are with this engagement monetization strategy. For example, in the engagement tab, I can show you here's how your audience is responding to different types of overlays and how each one performed on a view and click basis. And then over time, you probably A/B test these to maximize the engagement rate with your audience. So, sports betting is an example of something that probably is a very powerful new monetization mechanism for sports, but doesn't apply to some other area. Whereas in the food space, for example, we're building partnerships with companies that allow you to order all the ingredients from a chef's cooking show to the store near you. And, you know, again, that's something we would never build, but there is some company out there that's all they do, right? So it's like, great, let's marry these things up and provide the world's first open platform that's kind of as powerful or more powerful than Twitch, but it's really geared around specific communities and empowering those communities to be the brand and be at the center instead of Twitch being at the center or YouTube being at the center, right? That's where we see Web3 really going, is in addition to the decentralization concept from the token and currency concept, we also see the decentralization trend taking place with where people are going to drive viewers, right? So for example, why should Pandora drive people to Twitch when they can drive people to Pandora.com? Right? Or any other one of our customers, they're kind of getting wise to this element. It doesn't make sense to spend their own ad dollars to send people to a platform that they don't control. They can use Maestro to build an experience that is superior to what exists on those platforms, but then they get all the benefits of having sort of built it themselves without the headache. So that's the basic gist of the company. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Ari, for your presentation. Amazing platform. Thank you again. So far we don't have any questions. So thank you, and hope to see you soon, Ari.
All right, thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Great. So before we end our presentation, just wanted to share with you our agenda for the next months in terms of event. So the next one will be on June 16th around hydrogen, sorry. And the next one will be around AI on July 7th. So thank you again for everyone for coming by, and have a great rest of your day. Till next time.